music production standpoint and a mobile gaming standpoint as well. And that's why I'm here today to hopefully share with developers and advertisers and brands the true benefits of the format.
Perfect. That was bang on, Christian. Thank you very much. Julia, can we come to you next, please?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. My name's Julia. I work at the 7 Stars, so we're an independent media agency. We advise clients on where to reach their audiences through paid media. I personally lead the entertainment team, so my team's about 30 strong, and our clients include Warner Music, Sony Music, Bauer Radio, and Penguin Random House. So not only do we have audio clients, but we also plan many varied audio-led campaigns, from everything from traditional broadcast radio to podcasts, streaming platforms, and then also audio in-game through some of our friends at AudioMob.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Julia. And Christian. Sorry, Christian, I beg your pardon. Niklas, I beg your pardon.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Niklas. I'm 29 years old, and I currently work for the full-service agency AnyEver. We are a full-service audio agency from Germany, and we offer our clients a holistic approach to do audio over all channels, like traditional radio, online audio stations, and voice, podcasts, and all those things that come with audio at the moment. And we've partnered with AudioMob in May, I think it was, Christian. And we're the exclusive marketeer for the German market. And I'm really happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Mr. Quick, Mark, can we find out a bit more about you, please?
Yeah, hi. I'm director at Ninth Impact. We're a studio in the west of Ireland. We're a game design and development studio, and we really specialize in designing games for fan bases, existing fan bases of TV shows in partnership with their original show creators. And so recently we've been working on Big Brother, the game, which is the world's first massively multiplayer online reality TV show, where there's real players in a virtual Big Brother house, evicting each other and having all sorts of fun. Audio is a big part of that, of course, because we're building a real life house experience, and so if audio is part of the real world, then audio has to be part of our world in the game.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you all very much indeed. And I think you can all agree, folks, that this is an outstanding panel to be bringing to you on a Tuesday afternoon. And I think we're just going to dive straight in, if that's okay. So I guess my first question is, a lot of people are familiar with the idea of in-game audio and the value of audio when it comes to soundtracks, when it comes to sort of the really enhancing the experience of the gameplay. But outside that, where are we starting to see some innovation? Because the whole notion of in-game audio ads is going to be new to some people. So this is open to everybody. But I guess, Christian, coming to you first, given your position in AudioMob, where are we seeing the new trends? What's going on with audio outside the soundtracks?
So it's from a variety of angles that we're seeing innovation in the gaming space specifically as well, but in the audio space. It's making the ads and the delivery of the ads more native. So to give you an example, and these are all things that AudioMob are experimenting with trusted partners. Let's take voice synthesis. So we're now at an age where we can synthesize the inflection of a voice, and it's gotten to the point where you can't tell if an AI-generated voice is human or a robot. And these are the kind of innovations that we hope to bring into the gaming space, where rather than it being a standard audio ad with maybe an influencer or a non-distinct voice, it could be the in-game character whose voice is synthesized and then speaks the ad. So it's this move towards a native delivery of the ad format. We're also seeing more innovation around voice-activated ads, where the users can communicate with the advertising messages or general messages that are delivered to them via the format, whether it's a game or a video ad. And then when it comes to music specifically as well, I'll say they're leading the charge in terms of innovation. It's why we've teamed up with the likes of 7stars, who are very well known in the space for delivering those kinds of ads. Music concerts within games, like you see the likes of Roblox and Fortnite, and events even in mobile games now. The music industry are looking for multiple entry points into the in-game environment, and that's exactly where we come in. I mean, you think of the GTA 5 radio, or the jukebox in FIFA, which really spawned this interest in how valuable this kind of inventory is for the music space. So yeah, we're definitely seeing like the most amount of activity and investments from the music side of things.
That's fantastic. And Julia, we're going to come to you next, because obviously Christian has name checked you. What is it that you guys are doing that is new and innovative? Where are you seeing the interest?
To be honest, I mean, the audio space has changed quite a lot very recently, just in lockdown. So just, I guess, in the terms of how many people it's reaching, but also listening habits. So this is generally across the audio market, not specifically to audio and games. So we've got fewer people commuting, more people working from home. Things like in-car listening has declined, and then using connected devices has massively increased. So there's been a big shift in the way in which people are actually listening has changed a massive amount. So with this, there have been new audio environments that have emerged. So there's quite a lot of social audio, what we call the social audio, that's happening in lockdown. I mean, most people would be familiar with Clubhouse and Discord and those guys. If you're not familiar, Discord we recently used for Coldplay. For their recent single campaign for Higher Power. So this was where our clients themselves created a fan community to seed information and then allow discussion of theories in this space. So specifically in social audio, that's something that is pretty innovative and relatively new. We've also currently got one of our other clients, Sony Music, working with Alexa Skill and one of their artists, Paloma Faith, to actually create bedtime stories and then using in-purchase technology to see if to purchase from the Alexa Skill itself. So there's quite a lot from a music perspective that is new. Clients are trying to explore different ways of using audio technology. And then, as Christian mentioned, we have got a fair amount of our clients now running across AudioMob. So that's specifically in-game audio advertising. And we've noticed that there are various different ways in which you can do it, and what we're trying to understand is what is going to perform the best for our audiences. So it's still all new, it's still developing, and it's still very much something that we're trying to learn as we go, but it's all very exciting.
That's incredibly interesting, because audio way back in the day was very much the poor relation. It was all about the sharper graphics, more polygons, faster faster sprite generation, all of this kind of thing, but it really seems to have leapfrogged. And for me, audio has always been one of the most, emotionally engaging elements. And I guess I want to ask guys, are you seeing more engagement across the board? We're seeing figures coming out about the number of podcasts that are being listened to, the various ways in which people are engaging via audio. You mentioned Clubhouse there, Julia, and that's been incredibly interesting, because obviously you can multitask. It's something that you can participate within while doing something else. Is this an area where you're seeing people, really starting to sort of explore and maybe go off in different tangents than they would have even a year or two ago?
I would say so, but I'd also say that the audio advertising obviously is not new. It's just the spaces in which you can audio advertise and how you can interact with people. Audio, as you know, as you said, it was very, very emotive. It's often known in media agencies as the medium that's the audience's best friend. And it's often because it keeps you company. So sometimes down to the radio DJs themselves. And I guess regardless, audio is pretty intimate because you're right in somebody's ear. So for my clients, the music itself is the message, and music and any sound has the ability to induce emotion and significantly impact someone's mood. So for me, from the clients that I work on, the most natural way to promote music and to get people to act upon a music marketeer's message is in these kind of environments. So it makes a lot of sense that we're using them, but it also really aligns with them multitasking and doing other things because you're so in their ear, especially the way in which people are listening as well. When they're in game on mobile, have often got their headphones in. You are literally the only thing in their ear. So regardless of what they are seeing, they're hearing your message. That's incredibly powerful.
It is. It absolutely is. Niklas, Mark, do you guys are you guys seeing a change, a shift? Are you having new opportunities opening up in the areas you're working in?
Yeah, one of the things that we tried to do in the Big Brother house was, give players, an exact experience of being, isolated in a house with the rest of their housemates for up to a week. So the game plays out over a long, long time. So our game is very different experience than a lot of games because of that kind of elongated length of real time, whereas normally you're having this sort of epic maybe game experience within a very short burst of playing. Our game, you're actually playing this psychologically with your real housemates over the course of days and days. So while you're in that, one of the kind of things that happens in the real world is that somebody chooses the music in the house, and it annoys everybody else, and they don't want to listen to it, and they want to listen to something else, and they have an argument about it. And so we wanted to kind of really replicate that in the game world, and it's intentionally part of the design, not something that we couldn't engineer around. So we've been giving a shared experience of the same music to a group of people, which is kind of a departure, because music in games, obviously the most common format is kind of a soundtrack, which is just a stable, and then sometimes it's personalized to the individual player. But having somebody else make your choices was something that we've started to explore, and we're going to take that concept further as we iterate the design. But that real world, that ability to mimic the real world, and then part of that, of course, was then introducing the concept of ads as part of that audio. And so for us as a game developer, obviously this is a source of revenue. So it's important to us. But what's more important is the experience of the player. And because, as you said, in the real world, as Julia said, you're doing something else while you're listening to audio a lot of the time. So we replicated that as well. So when players are doing tasks within the virtual world, they have the option to listen to the audio at the same time. So they're virtually dusting the house while listening to the audio tracks. And so, I think that multi-layered, multitasking that happens very naturally in the real world is really coming into the design of games.
Oh, sorry, Niklas. I was just... you go ahead.
For us, I think the last year has had the biggest challenge or the biggest disruption for us as an audio agency. As you can imagine, in the first place, we thought about losing several clients due to Corona. As you said, Julia, the driving time had gone, but the thing was that a lot of people just kept on hearing radio in their home, because it was some kind of a trust medium that they were consuming, and also with the podcast boom, which came with the Corona crisis or increased due to that. We're currently having 24 million people in Germany hearing podcasts nearly daily, and also the in-game audio thing, which came up in the first month. Helped us to open up a new segment for our business, and this is pretty exciting actually, because audio is one of the channels that has so many opportunities to communicate with the audience. So you're not telling the full story. Actually, it's like with the books. If you're reading a book, everyone imagines their own perfect picture of what you think about. Like if I tell you you should think about a blue house, so everybody thinks of their own version of a blue house, and that's pretty interesting. And that's also the thing that we are doing with our audio spot. So we were really excited about that.
Wonderful, thank you, folks. I guess I'm going to throw in a little bonus question, because you know, the music sector has not famously been the most accepting of new technologies in the past, and has in some cases fought against the opportunities that are opening up. Has that changed? Are you finding a real difference in opinion when it comes to sort of the wider music industry in terms of the digital world and interactive and specifics?
Is this one for me? Would you like me
Go
to
on,
answer this
Julia.
one?
Yes. No, you want to.
I mean, from my client's perspective, they're incredibly future facing. They do adopt new technology. I think their business model has meant that they've had to. In the industry has meant that they've had to. And a lot of the initiatives that we work on with clients are led through their creative teams, and our job is to then promote those initiatives. So Christian and the team at AudioMob did a great job of discussing what in-game audio is with the clients directly, and then with our agency as well. So together we can go and talk about what those opportunities are. But I would say that they are pretty future facing. They're the ones working with Alexa Skill, they're the ones working with Discord. They ask us about what's going on with Clubhouse. We talk to them about personalized audio ads at scale with some of our programmatic partners. So we have multiple conversations with them from a paid media perspective about audio technologies and adopting digital technologies, and they are very much on the ball with those conversations.
Fantastic, thank you, Julia. And Christian, I want to come back to you. When it comes to actual audio marketing, what's going on out there? I mean, you mentioned voice synthesis and you know, some of the things that are really pushing the envelope, but where are we right now? What can the developers, publishers, the folk listening to this roundtable this afternoon do to start engaging with audio marketing?
It's a really good question, and it's one that constantly comes up in terms of, you know, a typical question would be, if I'm going to introduce audio ads, will it be like a 45, 60-second radio ad? And that's absolutely not you know, what the status of the industry is. The way that AudioMob works is you've got a very easy to implement Unity plugin, takes between 10 and 30 minutes to plug in. After half a day of testing, you can launch the game. And what we do is we encompass different types of audio ads. So whether it's a 15-second, 30-second or more, we do try and limit them to 30 seconds. We send the ads to the correct game types, right? So maybe you've got a word kind of puzzle game, for instance, where the user time is much longer, between 30 to 60 seconds. Could be the average if it's like a Scrabble game, or it could be up to 20 minutes if it's something a bit more intricate. We tailor different ads for those kinds of games compared to the ads for a hyper casual game where the user is usually alive no longer than 30 seconds. And then when it comes to the actual delivery of the message, we work with agencies directly with clients, as well as the DSPs, so the demand side platforms that the advertisers use to target the players. We work with them to make sure that the ads are actually applicable for the user, that there's a call to action, click through if you want to find out more, these kind of applicable actions. But then in terms of the audio marketing, I mean, you know, you can make a really high quality creative, you can add the call to action, but when it comes to the actual user, outside of, you know, making this whole thing possible, this whole advertising format, it is all about, at the end of the day, for a publisher, the user. Are you blocking the gameplay? Are you blocking the user's music that they're listening to? Is the reward in order for the user to listen in order for the user to actually listen to the ad to get a reward in return? Is the reward applicable enough? Is the user of the right age? Are we GDPR compliant? So we think about all of these different data points as well as the delivery to make sure that we're not blocking the users like audio experience, because again, most users over 61% listen to something in the background. We make sure that we understand the audio state of the phone so that we know that the phone is actually on, even though the game's muted. We know that if we put in an ad, it won't disrupt music, etc. So these are the things that we are doing so that the audio creative, no matter how good it is, can actually fit into the game. And developers can actually install the plugin and use this right now. Partners such as Voodoo have already integrated with us, and we've got ongoing conversations with Quale, Miniclip, and highly regarded publishers.
That's fantastic. And Niklas, where is it that you're seeing that this kind of work being implemented? Can you give us any examples of areas where this is really being picked up and run with?
We've had like 3 test campaigns in Germany so far with various clients, and we're very excited about that new channel. That's a hard question, actually. I think there are a lot of potentials to implement in-game audio in every media campaign. For us, it's definitely an awareness channel, not a performance medium in the first place. Nevertheless, you're already able to offer like the impression rates and the click-through rates and what else. But I think, like Christian said, we are not disrupting the gameplay of the users, and that's a really good point. Even Spotify is interrupting their listeners actually at the moment. So and we're in a position where we can offer ads and still keep on the gameplay running, So that's very interesting for us as an agency and also for our clients.
I think as well, because it's still relatively new, there's still so much that can be done from a creative perspective. So normally you'd work with creative agencies or sometimes clients direct to actually come up with a creative that really feels like it's native to the environment, as Christian was saying. So the closer you can get to your targeting and then to a creative that feels really native in that environment, arguably the better your engagement rate is going to be, because it will feel really attuned to what it is that gamer is actually doing at the time. So for instance, we've tested a couple of formats where we've actually had some of our artists say something along the lines of, hey, stop what you're doing, listen to XYZ right now, because we're calling out the fact that we know what they're doing, or it's like, stop playing just for a second, or give your brain a pause, and XYZ. So that's where we've just begun to start testing the creative. We haven't even really pushed that very far. If you think about any other media channel, you will have worked with creative agencies as a media agency or as a client multiple different times to try and hone what that creative message actually looks like and make sure that it's really, really relevant for your audiences. We're only just at the start of this. But for me, if you're talking about the potential, I see in-game audio has the same potential as any broadcast radio station. If you're running a broadcast radio station message, there's no reason why you wouldn't run that in a gaming audio space, especially if you're looking at casual gaming mobile environment, because the audience that you can deliver is much more mass than if you're, for instance, focusing on what would be a traditional gaming audience from a media targeting perspective, which might be, younger males and females, as opposed to, a mum with 3 kids down the road who does her shopping at Iceland. We get to have like a picture of what those people look like, and we can target pretty much anybody with the likes of AudioMob, because so many people are gamers now.
The good thing here is that the reach is already there, right? I mean, everybody has a smartphone, everybody has access to thousands of apps, and if you compare that to a radio station that has to grow over the time, and like game developers only need to implement that technique into their games, then you have that reach already, and that is the big advantage for us, actually.
Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of really, really interesting points here. I want to pick up on something that you had said earlier, Christian, and that you've just clarified as well, Julia, which is the sort of the contextualization, the interactive elements. You know what the player's doing, you know what else is happening on the phone, and so this ability to tailor and customize the audio ads, I think is, okay, perhaps not unique, but might be one of the first opportunities for the developers and designers and the marketers to work together more creatively to deliver something, you know, really quite new and innovative. Is that where we're going? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, I'll jump in here. So to give you an overview of where we're at, I mean, we're connecting to very different industries. Well, now we're making everyone realize they're not so different. But you've got the gaming market, right? You've got 2.7 billion gamers. It's a 100 billion plus market, and it's growing at around 30% a year. And then you've got the audio ad market, which is around a $10 billion market, growing at approximately 23% a year. So you've got two very, very large markets, and we're now coming to a point where through AudioMob we're realizing that these markets actually want to talk to each other. You've got the fact that Apple has taken a more privacy-centric approach with the IDFA changes on iOS 14, which means that it's much harder for especially mid-core games to target what we call, you know, the whales, the 2 to 4% of players that spend the most amount of money, and it will have some effect to hyper-casual eCPMs. So you've got this industry change where there is going to be a revenue gap, and that needs to be filled. That is happening in the gaming space. And when it comes to the solution to adopt, you want to make sure that you're not affecting your core revenue, your video ads, your display ads, etc. So when it comes to making sure that new format that you test doesn't affect retention, and the fact that there is a revenue gap, that is happening right now. And then you look to the audio market, the advertisers. They have been hearing for the last 5 years that gaming is all the rage, everyone is playing games. But over the last 4 to 5 years or so, it was very hard for an advertiser to understand, how do I segment this audience? What data is available for me? How can I target this audience? I know it's large, but I don't know who's playing. And now you've got companies like AudioMob, for instance, where we can get the data, we can deliver the ads in a non-intrusive fashion, and the advertiser can benefit from knowing in a privacy compliant way, a contextual way, who they're targeting. And then the game developers can actually not just plug the gap in revenue that will occur because of IDFA and iOS 14, but actually earn incremental revenues above where they were before. So this is the real opportunity for two large industries, and it's kind of a trifecta that we found that benefits the game developer, more revenues, better and larger audiences for the advertisers to target, and then of course the player who isn't affected.
Pardon me?
Saved by the bell.
Forgive me.
Yeah, and we've implemented that, Brian, with AudioMob, is that every audio placement that we have in our game, the player has chosen to play that ad. So it cannot be invasive because you've taken an action yourself and you've chosen. Obviously, there's a reward trade-off that you want. And we intentionally try to promote that to players within contexts where they've done something else in the game and they've kind of got some downtime, where this is a nice option to add to their earning potential. Is where we do it mostly, but they've always taken that decision themselves that they want to listen to this segment of audio. So it makes it a very, very different experience than like a pop-up that comes over your gameplay and interrupts you.
And I think that's a really important thing, Mark, because when you're talking about something that's as immersive as Big Brother, as you put it earlier, where you're spending an awful lot of time within an environment, being able to choose, give the player that kind of agency, which is what video games are all about, must be incredibly important. So it's not just, regardless of where you are, we chop, we give you an ad, and then, come back after these messages. As developers, as designers, how are you looking at the new sort of opportunity to I guess, be more creative with this? How can you see this being taken forward in other sort of genres and game types?
Well, you see, that was really important to us, because we started out, trying to create a Big Brother house. and it just happened to be virtual, and your portal happened to be your mobile phone. But within every house, say you've got 10 players, there are 10 real people. You just happen to be connecting through your phones, you know, but you're isolated together. It doesn't matter that there's hundreds, thousands of other players. You're stuck together over the course of days till you get evicted. And so we didn't ever want to, even though the game to us is played, you know, psychologically. So it's more of a mind game than it is, you know, it's not an action orientated game. It's not so much about the controls, you know, or mastery of a skill set for controls. It's much more a social and psychological game. But the 3D environment that we built is just a house, right? You can't get outside the house because it's Big Brother, so you can't leave, of course. But it was important for us that, you know, not to break that, because once you actually get into that, you kind of forget that you're not in this house, because you're interacting with real people. You're in a 3D world. As you said, it's a kind of immersive experience. So it's really important for us, you know, not to break that with a kind of a 2D that just brings you away from that. And it's not that it brings you away from it visually, even, it's that it brings you away from it mentally. And so the layering of audio, you know, and audio ads is something that happens on top of real life, you know, when you're doing other things. So it was that was our choice of bringing it into the game, really, as our primary advertising channel rather than visual. So sorry, I didn't get to your question. Where do we see this going?
Yeah. I think, I mean, just to sort of add into that, I think you said something really super interesting about, you know, gaming being a mentally immersive environment, and you as a game developer making a choice as to what kind of audio advertising you actually took on, and if it was rewarding a player or if it was something else. I mean, I find that interesting because of the type of clients that I've been using in this audio in-game space are music advertisers. So generally speaking, the kind of creative that you get from a music advertiser tends to perhaps be a little bit better than what you might get if you were an FMCG advertiser or a retail advertiser, because people are able to listen to that music and then there'll be a short call to action and it will actually feel like you're part of the game. So it's less about stopping gameplay and giving somebody a reward as it is providing a soundtrack and doing a marketing message at the same time. And I think that's what's really important, is back to being as native as possible to the environments that you're in and making good choices when it comes to your creative and how you are going to interact with the audiences that you have. And I think that's regardless of your advertising and your medium, the goal is always to be as native and less intrusive while still getting cut through.
And that's interesting, because this is a point that you've made, and Christian, you've made it a couple of times, and it's all about that call to action. Because if what you're trying to do is give somebody a native experience, keep things consistent within the game world, the environment, if you will, what sort of call to action or calls to action can you actually use? Where are you seeing, the brand recognition? Can you actually get people to dip out, or is this something that you kind of have to remind them at the end of the game? How are we actually seeing this implementation working?
Can I just answer a little bit on what I know so far about how we've worked on it with our clients? Because by no means I can answer this question fully, but I can certainly answer it a little bit. So, I mean, I see it very much working alongside something like Shazam and how Shazam works with television. It feels quite intuitive to what you're already doing, and really flicking in between your game and your iTunes or your Spotify doesn't feel too far removed from how people are naturally using their phone. So again, I can't see there being too much of a push for audiences to actually go ahead and discover further music because they're already using their mobile phone, they're already listening within an environment where music feels natural to them. So if you're then asking them to go on and listen further, I feel like it's not too much of an ask from an advertiser perspective. That will change on advertiser vertical, because some things will be a massive ask, but for my clients, it doesn't feel like a big ask at all.
Fabulous. And Christian, I'm going to come to you and then up to you, Niklas, if I may.
Just unmuting there. So yeah, what we're seeing again in the music space, it is really not that much of an ask, because if you're directing a user or a player to Apple or Spotify, they can actually continue listening to the music track and then pop back into the game or go away and do something else. Either way, it's quite a good conversion rate there. But we also work with lots of other clients. Like with AnyEver, we work with automotive clients like Autoglass. We specifically work with KitKat and Jeep and many other very, very large global clients. And what we see, and we've used this in our research, because we've got our own advertising platform as well as our own Unity plugin for the developers. We've done a lot of research via our own advertising platform, our own DSP, and we found across the board 1,000% increase in click-through engagement. And these aren't just rewarded ads; these are automatically played ads as well. Because what we found is that if we take into account the audio intent, these are new signals that we're calling it. If a player has decided to not mute the creative to listen to a certain quartile or even to click through, it means that the value of the ad is higher than the fun that they were having in the game that they're playing. So they end up clicking through or listening to a certain quartile. Either way, the game developer gets paid, but even more so, the advertiser sees a higher engagement than they've ever seen before. And so this is a testament to how the platform works, not just from a monetary standpoint for the advertiser or the game developer, but gamers generally want to click through to these kinds of ads if they're targeted correctly, because it's not blocking the gameplay.
That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. And Niklas, from a marketing perspective, are you seeing a lot of interest from different verticals, from the various markets and brands out there? Yeah, where is it that people are coming to you and kicking the door in?
I think in the first place, we started to offer in-game audio to our clients, like Christian said, United Autoglass. They're like the small daughter of the car glass company, and also for like some FMCG companies, and also for other game developers. And we see a wide range of companies that could be interested in doing in-game audio, because first of all, it's a new channel. We are not disrupting the players, and the brand recognition is pretty easy to implement. Actually, if you think about like the Deutsche Telekom with their sound jingle, dum 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 dum. So like you already have those brand recognition inside the spot, and for us, it's like the audio segment has always been handled a bit like a traditional media. And now with in-game audio, with voice, with podcast, we're coming a bit up. You know what I mean, in the modern times. So yeah, but I wouldn't stick to a certain industry for in-game audio. It's actually interesting for every industry.
Yeah, I can absolutely see how this is going to catch the attention of a huge range of different sectors and different markets around the world, because as pretty much you've all said earlier on, the audience for gaming, for mobile out there is so vast that we can now hit almost any segment. I kind of want to flip this and look at the notion of games, especially mobile games at the moment, because we've touched on hyper casual, we've touched on some really big, well-known brands and IPs such as Big Brother, where there is a huge market not traditionally considered gamers as such. And are you folks seeing an awful lot of interest there from your other clients in games, given the success of Travis Scott in Fortnite and Roblox and some of the big crossovers between music and games? Is this something that's going to continue? Are we seeing the sort of the birth of something new where all of these different markets are starting to converge? I guess it's only fair to come to you first, Julia.
Oh, gosh, I mean, is it going anywhere anytime soon? I mean, yeah, I think it's sticking around. Our clients are incredibly interested in a multiverse advertising, so actually creation of complete universes for their artists, gigs within games, outdoor advertising within games. There's a huge amount of in-game advertising that they're doing. Those environments, they tend to be within the likes of Roblox, within Minecraft, within I guess a different kind of gaming environment to what you might consider when it comes to mobile advertising and in-game advertising in mobile environments. And I think the key thing is around the creative, is understanding what is creatively viable within these environments, but also what audiences really want. Like, if you can create games that are brand and ad funded, then of course that works for everybody if that game is actually good. So you need to have the right developers working on it, and you could create something that is entirely paid for and funded by a brand if it was the right brand, and if you had a particular I guess theme in mind for the game. But I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. I just see it getting bigger and bigger. And I think the key is for media agencies like myself, and agencies, I guess, that Niklas works for as well, making sure that we understand the landscape enough so that we can advise our clients effectively to say that this is actually the kind of thing that you can build for your brand in, say, a multiverse environment, versus this is the kind of activation that you could create in a casual mobile in-game environment. And I think it's about working out what those experiences are and being able to advise on them, and working with developers to do so, making sure that whatever it is that you're creating does feel like it's going to work for both the player but also the advertiser.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that that's the thing. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach anymore. You know, you can't just slap a brand into a game and know that you're reaching millions of people. It's all about the contextualization. It's all about the sympathetic approach.
I think so, but I think that's the case across all advertising. I think if you're too slapdash and you just chuck a brand name out there and, you know, throw it against something for long enough and hard enough, you expect that people are going to pay attention. But that's not always the case, especially in environments these days. People want more from brands. They expect more from brands, and they expect more from advertisers. They expect them to integrate within their environments and to offer them something. So whether that's entertainment, information, whatever it might be, they have an expectation for what those advertisers are providing. Otherwise, it's a terrible experience for that brand, and you'll get actually a negative response from that.
That's really important. And I think that idea of value is something that is going to resonate with everyone. Christian, is this where AudioMob is going? Is this where you're seeing AudioMob, I beg your pardon? Is this where you're really pushing forward to try and create this platform to enable that kind of value creation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, outside of, you know, just creating the infrastructure for mobile gaming, where you can leverage you know, music ads and general audio ads as well, everywhere we look, there is an opportunity for this form of non-intrusive audio advertising, whether it's, you know, console, VR, desktop, dating apps. These are all things that we're exploring. And again, I could talk for hours on this, but we're limited on time. So I guess the core thing here, and you know, I did a lot of research on this in Facebook, and I'm kind of bringing this to light in AudioMob, is the idea of removing the negative prior, which is what we're calling it. So we're seeing evidence that if you, as a user, experience something negative shortly before the consumption of an ad, you're less likely to consume the ad. Typically, if the ad blocks you from your primary motive. Now, it could be an audio ad if you're listening to music, which is the primary motive, or it could be, you know, a full screen ad when you're playing a game. And the idea is that outside of that holistic value curation, game developers can now integrate ad solutions like AudioMob, where we're removing that negative prior. You're not blocking the user playing the game. So now, when an ad that has worked hard to create their creative, they've got their targeting on point, they are now getting through to the player without taking away their core objective. And this is the kind of value creation that we want to create, whether it's in gaming or console games or dating apps. That's the ethos that AudioMob has.
Mm-hmm. And this must have a very significant positive impact for the brands as well, because Niklas, from your point of view as an agency, you must be able to sort of offer that reassurance to brands that they're not going to get that kind of negative experience, that the implementation can be sympathetic to their own core values.
Yeah, we already conducted a baseline study for the German market to figure out whether the people in Germany would prefer video ads over audio ads, and 25% already told us that they would prefer audio ads over video ads. And you have to think about that this kind of format is not established in the German market. So we were just at the beginning of making it more popular for the people in Germany, and think the acknowledgement will increase by the time with that. So we're definitely positive. And this is also a thing that we are telling our clients, that brand sympathy will increase with the usage of in-game audio for them.
Mm-hmm. And Mark, coming to you, I mean, this is kind of removing one of the big barriers. As a former developer, the notion of having to go and talk to advertisers was terrifying. So an awful lot of developers have kind of thrown in the interstitial ads, implemented whatever ads, stores they cared to. But this is giving you guys an awful lot more control. It's allowing you to control the environment that you're creating. Is this sort of a new opportunity for developers to kind of remove the stigma, or at least get a little bit closer to a new way of generating revenue?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the huge challenges for us as game designers and developers is that we're generally always under time constraints. So even if we sort of wanted to engage with these advertisers, it takes time, and so our partnership with AudioMob has allowed a trusted partner to do that really on our behalf, to showcase what's possible within our world, and our player base, and to bring that to a global audience of advertisers. And so like that time factor is hugely important for us, while still we're first and foremost more conscious of the experience of the player. Then the revenue comes secondary to that. So if it ticks the first box, we move on to obviously trying to generate and maximize the revenue thereafter. But if it fails the first test, then regardless of the revenue potential, it's not going anywhere. So it definitely has opened a new channel for us to play with, and it's definitely given us a challenge as a game designer to ensure that our audio landscape is engaging and interesting enough to make sure that people are, because if people aren't listening to this, there's no ads, because that's really the first step, is people have to be listening in the game. So that's a challenge to us, and a challenge that we take on, as okay, we need to do this to make it work, but also it's really just prompted us to really focus more on that, as an area of design, and so I think that in a lot of games, and certainly in some of our past games, we wouldn't have paid as much attention to that area. And I can see definitely as a designer now that we will spend a higher proportion of our time ensuring that that landscape hourly is as interesting, and that it gets as much focus as creating fun, visually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, I take your point entirely. If I may step back what seems like several centuries, my first job was on Grand Theft Auto, and I helped do some of the audio, very small part, but I wrote some of the lyrics, helped with the radio station approach, and we went looking for advertising, real advertising at that point, but it was 1997, and we got laughed out of local retailers. We got laughed out of the local radio station because nobody believed that video games had anything to offer. But I guess the challenges are very different. And your point there, Mark, I think is very well made, in that this does push back to developers and give the creators a whole new set of opportunities, but the challenges are there as well. But I'd like to open up to the rest of the panel and ask, what are the challenges? Where do the creators, the content developers and publishers need to be looking in order to do this new kind of form of advertising and marketing justice? And Christian, I think we'll ask you first, if we may.
So some of the cool things that creators need to do is they need to be wary of the fact that it isn't just, a 12 or 13-year-old playing these mobile games these days. There are different segments within every single demographic, and they are all the largest that play mobile games, right? Whether it's 18 to 24-year-olds, 24 to 35, 65-year-olds and plus. The largest segment of every demographic we've looked at, they actually play mobile games. Now, whether it's a younger person that's playing some Call of Duty-esque shooting game, or a more mature person that may be playing something a bit slow-paced like Sudoku or Scrabble or Wordscapes or something, we are seeing this demographic makeup across the board, and the creators have to take this into account. Not assume that it's just one kind of person playing a game. What happens to us when we pitch direct brands is that they will assume that a specific type of person plays a specific type of game, but not many people outside of who we worked with so far can say who their perfect customer is in context of the game that they play. So when you're creating these creatives and are in test mode, definitely keep that in mind, because as you start exploring the different games and the users within those games that have a positive affinity with your brand, the creative is going to adapt based on this approach for the better. And again, it's why we see 1000% plus increase in engagement, because we're guiding the brands to create ads using the best practices that we've researched.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic, thank you. And we're into the last 5 minutes. We'll come to some audience questions in just a second. But Julia, the same question to you, in terms of the overall impact and where you're seeing the interest.
Oh gosh, I feel like I might have answered some of this a little bit already, so I'm very conscious of repeating myself. Really, I guess, I mean, it has to start with the player, right? In my head, it has to start with the player, and I'm kind of, I guess, parroting what Christian's already said. But as a media agency working on behalf of brands and looking for audiences, you want as much audience insight as you can get. So you want as much understanding of the people that you are trying to talk to as you can get. So whether that's if they're watching a television program, whether that's if they're listening to a particular broadcast radio station, or if they're playing a particular game, we want to know about them, and we want to know about who they are, why they're playing. We want the general information about their demographic, like their age, their gender, socioeconomic status, that kind of information, because that's how we pitch for the right brands to advertise against them. But from my perspective, the deeper that we can find, the deeper audience insight that we can find, the better. So if we can get information from the developers and we can work out a bit more about who the audiences are that we're trying to focus on, we can just craft better messages and we can engage them in a much more intuitive way, and in a way that we really think is going to work. Yeah, I hope I haven't repeated myself too much.
No, you're absolutely not. And I think it's that sense of that partnership, both sides working towards a common goal, which is, as you said from the outset, understanding the player. Niklas, if we can come to you, same question about the key challenges.
I think the two main challenges that we have as a media agency are that we need lighthouse brands which will conduct some in-game audio campaigns that will generate a wider acknowledgement in the German market, like big brands like Audi or Deutsche Telekom to make it more public to everyone in Germany. And the other thing is that we need to talk to our clients that they need another creative than they are using for their traditional radio campaigns. You know, we had this conversation previously about the call to action, and this is another thing that we need to talk about with them, so that the creative has to be adapted to the game environment.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
One more thing to add is just making sure that the advertisers that we work with and the brands that we work with understand the right kind of measurement for the campaign, and that they're measuring a campaign in the most accurate way, because as Niklas and I both sort of mentioned, and Niklas specifically said, we see campaigns in audio mobile environment as awareness campaigns primarily, and then any additional actions are additional actions, but it's really about reaching the right kind of people with your message and the right level of frequency. If they then go on to do something off the back of that, that's almost a secondary message, because it's a bit like any other form of advertising. When TV advertising moved into VOD and SVOD, BVOD platforms, there was obviously the ability to click through. So you'd often get advertisers that would say, so like, what is the cost of getting people to click through onto my ad? And you'd say, well, really? How many, you wouldn't have said that if it was a TV commercial in a broadcast TV environment. So therefore, you shouldn't really be asking that question. It's about how many people you reach and how engaged they were. So I think a lot of the challenges from an advertising perspective will come around that sort of KPI as well as creative. Yeah,
that makes perfect sense. You know, you have to be measuring the appropriate thing and dealing with it as the most appropriate channel. I've got one quick question from the audience that's for you, Christian, specifically, which is, which regions of the world is AudioMob available to publishers and developers in, and where are you going next?
So yeah, it's been a crazy first half of the year. I mean, we just got investment from Google, and everything seems to be exploding. So we're available in pretty much every country outside of China. So whether you've got DAU in the US, LATAM, so, you know, South America, Canada, Australia, India, all around Europe, Australia, we're pretty much available everywhere. And again, it's why we're able to integrate with the likes of you know, gaming clients like Voodoo, because we have demand, very strong demand in most countries now.
Fantastic and delightfully brief. So my last question. Oh, hang on, one more. When do you expect to have an SDK for Android native?
So no, really good question. So yeah, we only have a Unity plugin right now. We're expecting to start very early alpha testing of our SDK by the end of the year, with a launch sometime in Q1. So very sought after product.
Wonderful. Okay, we're down to the last sort of 60 seconds. I have one final question, and it's speculative. Where are we going to be? Where are we going to see the new opportunities in mobile game audio in the next 5 years? Does anyone want to jump on that? Yes, Christian.
I'll give a quick 20-second answer. I've always said, you know, to investors, panels, journalists, etc., if AudioMob didn't exist, I believe this format is too valuable to not exist. Another company, maybe Google, maybe Spotify, would have built it, but right now we are the thought leaders and creators of this. Audio ads is going to be a standard format, and we're in the mobile space in the next 2 to 5 years. And this isn't just across mobile games. This will be dating apps. It will be console games. It will be desktop applications as well.
Fantastic. And that very neatly brings us to the end of a rapid fire hour. As you said earlier, Christian, we could talk about this all afternoon. But I think sorry, my next door neighbour is banging on my window and because this is Scotland, and of course they are. An absolutely fascinating and amazing afternoon, a great roundtable, and a really great introduction to an area which is only going to get bigger, and an area which I think we've all seen is going to become a really key part of every developer and publisher's arsenal when it comes to revenue generation and indeed content creation, but a whole new landscape for brand IP owners and indeed marketing agencies. So it only remains for me to say thank you all very much indeed for your time. We really appreciate it. Christian, Niklas, Julia, Mark, thank you so much. And I look forward to speaking to you all individually in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.